but even I will say that Tom Brady has to be our first topic about whether or not he played this year with the Buccaneers. I've long thought that he was going to go from this year right into the Fox booth and start his work as a broadcaster. There's been some doubt thrown into that now. What's going to happen, Andrew? You've been on top of this the entire time.
Yeah, I'd probably say if you want a prediction, I say he plays again. Again, I don't know that. There's no like real sourcing or anything on that. If we talked maybe 6 months ago, I might have said, you know what, this is like he's kind of gearing up to retire. But then I don't really like to get in these guys' personal lives, but he gets divorced. And that kind of changes things to me. And just watching him, he just seems to have a passion for the game. The Buccaneers might not be that good, but he's playing pretty well. You know, he can be a free agent this year. Could he go to San Francisco? Steve Young said that recently, was putting those two together. So Steve Young knows something. I don't know, maybe. Bottom line is I don't think he comes out, but if he does, he's got the $375 million contract that we reported on the day they announced it. So $37.5 million a year. I will say there's a lot of people in the business, very smart people, very in the know people who kind of have their doubts that Brady ever does it. You look at it, you know, you sign that contract, it can be a hedge. You know, if he tells Fox, I don't want to do it, what are they going to say?
Yeah, I'm going to take a different tact on that. I always thought he was going to come out and waltz into the booth because that's a lot of money. I mean, if he wants to turn his back on that, then God love him. But I think this season, Greg Olsen, who has been sort of the interim person, has been excellent as an analyst. I think the camaraderie between him and Kevin Burkhardt, I mean, they've known each other it was since Olsen was in high school in New Jersey, and that's evident when you listen to the games. And I don't have inside knowledge of this, but I talked to several people like you, and if I'm Brad Zager or Eric Shanks over at Fox, I'm looking at this booth, and there's some magic there. There really is. They're really good. So would Brady come in and replace Olsen? Or would he be sometimes third person? Would he be somebody that would be
if Brady's in there, no. Brady's in there alone. If he comes, he's going to be the star. He's Tom Brady. You're paying him $37.5 million. You can't go. I don't think you can go 3-man booth with Tom Brady. In my opinion, first off, I don't think Zager likes 3-man booths. Number one. Number two, you don't pay somebody $37.5 million and then not have them speak unless you don't really think they can do the job. Then why'd you give them the money in the first place? That's number two. Number three, look, I've been studying Burkhardt and Olsen all year, and I see some things I like. I see some things that I think they can get better at, but I do think it comes down. I think Greg Olsen, I don't want to too much. Yeah, I know he listens. Thanks for listening, Greg. And he reads, and we really appreciate that. He's been on.
How is Greg Olsen not like Brian Rolap? He listens to the pod. I love
Brian
that.
Rolap listens to, but totally but what I was going to say is that February 12th in Glendale, Arizona, Greg Olsen can make quite a career for himself. Has a good game. Now there's two things there. Okay, in my opinion, you know, we talk about quarterbacks. And the ability to win the game. Greg Olsen and Kevin Burkhardt, for that matter, don't have to win the game that day. They just can't lose it. They can't be the story. And that doesn't, you know, they got to be themselves and they got to let it fly a little bit. But that's the day. There's going to be 100 million people watching. And, you know, the NFC Championship as well. You know, they're getting amazing ratings for that as well. But I think then that's where you kind of can say, okay, well, you know, Brady doesn't come, maybe it's Olsen, but could they sniff around Sean McVay if he retires from, or not, or at least, you know, stops coaching the Rams? I just think.
Let's stick with Brady real quick, because I want to play the what if game. What if he retires, he comes in, Fox's studio show is old, and they need some younger blood in there. Hard to think about Brady as young blood, but yeah, he'd be younger blood. Compared to Jimmy Johnson, compared to Terry Bradshaw. Is that a possible destination for him? Or is this just he's in the booth or nothing?
Look, for what they're paying him for the games. I think when you look at it, it's a lot of money. It's Tom Brady. I mean, this is that is a amazing hire. Again, we can talk about, are they worth it, these announcers? Does it matter? I'll just tell you, when Tom Brady shows up at stadiums, it's not going to be. I'm not going to take a shot at, but somebody who's doing the game right now, he's not. You got to figure out how you're getting him in the stadium. It's not just Tom Brady's there. He's at that level now. I mean, we can argue about if he's the greatest of all. He's had the greatest career of all time, no doubt, in terms of quarterbacks and maybe NFL players ever. Is he the greatest? You talk to players. It's a subjective how you look at that. But the bottom line is he's a superstar, and he's going to be in the booth if he does it. And will he do it this year? It will be amazing if he does. The thing to look at too is Fox has Super Bowl this year. Then the following year it's CBS, and then it's Fox again because the new contracts begin. And so that's 2 of the next 3 Super Bowls. Brady could be a rookie when he does that first Super Bowl. Olsen could have 2 of the next 3 Super Bowls. And here's the thing for Olsen, forgetting what Brady does, if he just does well, these jobs they will open, and he'll be very well positioned. He has a podcast company, and their Q rating is about to jump, Burkhart and Olsen. And if it does in a good way, they're going to be golden.
Let me ask you a question about Brady, because people that we both talk to in the business consider him almost like can't miss in terms of a broadcaster. Or
I love doing that. We talked about this in the pod. You love saying things I think that I hadn't said. All right, go ahead. Because actually, there are people who do think he could miss.
Look, I'm going to show my age here, but let's talk about Joe Montana, the greatest quarterback of all time when he retired. He was a superstar when he retired. He would go everything that you just said about Brady applied to Montana, and he was really dry and did not pan out to be a particularly effective. He was a below average TV announcer.
Yep.
What are the odds that he follows that Brady follows that path versus like a Tony Romo who came out and was plug and play?
I would say, number one, I don't like judging anybody until they actually do it. I hate columns that I read where people are like, this person's not. It's like, can we let them do it?
The whole point of this pod is that we're supposed to judge people.
Yeah, so hold on. But do I think Tom Brady will be good? I do. Mm-hmm. I do. I've seen of Tom Brady. I also think the thing that really helped Romo those first couple of years, he was just off the field. He'd just been studying defenses for whatever many years he played, 12, 13 years. That's a huge advantage. Tom Brady is going to have that same advantage. And I do think with Brady, just like with Peyton Manning, when you see on the Manning cast, I think his brain works at a different level when he's watching football. The question is, can he go from football talk to human talk? And that sometimes can be a problem. And also, is he willing to say stuff? He said he wants to be like Johnny Miller. Well, that'd be pretty interesting if he's slicing and dicing. And I don't think he'll slice and dice, but he'll be able to see things. And I think what is overrated is like, will he criticize? I mean, obviously it's good if you're criticizing when there's praise, like Tim McCarver used to say, there's no praise without criticism. But that's not really necessarily the job. The job is to tell us what we don't know and explain things simply. Can he do that? That's going to be a question. And then, before we leave this topic, I think the McVay question, he could have gotten $20 million to be Al Michaels' partner on Thursday Night Football on Amazon. He chose to come back. Been a terrible season. I do think he's linked to the quarterback there. And if the Rams don't have any draft choices, could McVay step aside this year or, in the near future? Yeah. And I do think you talk about the pregame show for Fox. You talk about if Brady doesn't come, if Olsen doesn't do well enough in these big games, then McVay maybe gets back into the picture.
So last year at this, for all through the spring, it was the broadcaster free agent frenzy. You've never covered anything like this. You were all over it. First of all, you mentioned McVay. Any other free agents out there that could be making waves?
Look, the other guy, I think he has like $50 million coming to him as the Packers quarterback. So to me, I think Aaron Rodgers will play, but he'd be interesting. But I could see also, is he a mainstream guy or does he do podcasts? Yeah, does he do something different? And he's sort of, I don't know. You asked me about Brady. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers would be good. They're just weird factor with him that I think if I was I'd be a little bit hesitant if I was hiring. I'm not saying I wouldn't hire him. I just think that he just seems to march to his own drummer a little too much to do games. He could be amazing, but he also could be really strange and off-putting. And so yeah. And then look, I'm a Steeler fan. Mike Tomlin shouldn't leave. If Mike Tomlin wanted to leave, he'd have a job.
What you have there, Andrew, is not the Q factor, but the weird factor.
The weird factor. The weird factor.
Which I think we both have the weird factor going for us.
Oh yeah, I got major weird factor.
So Tomlin also, you think Tomlin when he
if he stopped, I mean, look, he shouldn't go anywhere. He loves the coach. I don't see him leaving, but if he did, every network would want him.
Okay, let me. I just really quickly, because we've been on this topic.
Yeah, you want to
longer than I expected.
You love saying let's do an hour, and then you like extend the first topic 12 minutes in. But I hopefully everyone's enjoying it.
The people that are currently there, Al Michaels, will he be calling Amazon games this fall?
He has a 3-year contract, but I mean, I will say Al didn't seem to really enjoy it fully. They're paying him a lot of money. I don't know the exact number, but I do think it approaches $1 million a game. So in that range, maybe slightly less, but in that range. And so for that reason, I think he'll be back. But I don't think it was great that he basically said that a lot of these games aren't good. I get it. Some people like that on Twitter, but that's not really the job. The job is to call the game, not to analyze this as a good enough game, because I would argue that people watching it, who aren't on Twitter, who care about these teams, want you to do the game.
Yeah,
not tell them that they don't. They're actually choosing to watch. Most of us, we are in media, right? So sometimes we have to watch things or whatever, but most people are choosing to watch, and that's your audience, not people on Twitter saying, "Oh, that's great that he's dissing this terrible game." Amazon, those games now kind of have that moniker, and Al didn't help it, of being like, those are kind of subpar games. I don't think for nearly $1 million a game, that's what you're getting.
One of the things I like about doing this podcast is that you have certain rules that I've used for my own. And for instance, if you're going to call to complain, you're on the record. That's now a standard John Ourand rule. So I appreciate that. Another one is never complain about travel when you're when you're in a broadcast booth. I mean, you're taking private planes. That being said, Kirk Herbstreit and his travel from these teeny little college towns to an NFL game, within 2 days, all through the fall, is he going to be back on Amazon?
Oh yeah, he's making like $20+ million.
Will then he cut back any of his? I
don't think so. Also,
that's going to stay.
Also, Crimea River. I mean, I got to be honest with you. Nobody wants to hear. Look.
Listen, sometimes that private plane stops like 100 miles away from the.
I heard that one. Where were they? Carolina and the mountains there. Yeah, I mean, look. At the end of the day, no, I don't think he's turning down the money, but he has talked about how hard it is. It is hard. It is hard. But nobody wants to hear it. People have real jobs. I always say this about what I do for a living. I work hard. I don't have a real job. And that's how I look at it. We're talking about sports media for a living. I mean, we're fortunate as can be, and nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to hear that you're at the baseball. Look, and that comes from my just baseball background, because actually covering baseball, all the men and women out there who cover baseball, especially beat writers, that's a real job. That's a real job. I get it. People are gonna be like, well, you're in a baseball. Yeah, you get there, you leave your house at 1:15, you get home at like midnight or 1 every night, and the games never end, rainouts, et cetera, et cetera.